And it did work immediately. All right.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. Excellent. That's 2 in 2. I think I've hit it. I think I've hit what I need to do to just make it work immediately. So I'm going to keep doing that, whatever it is. Anyway, hello. Hello, everyone. I am Matt. I am your resident alchemist for this evening, or this afternoon, whenever you're watching. And I am here with the Black Knight.
Hello. Pleasure
Hello,
to be
hello.
here.
All right. So, for those who are not aware of you, of the Black Knight, who are you and what do you do?
I am indie author, and for the past few years, I have self-published a number of books, which my 7th Star Shatter book of the Star Shatter series, called Princess of the Stars, is recently been published. And I also dabble in fantasy, but when the time comes, more books will appear. So for now, I am laser focused on finishing my series, the Star Shatter series, which is space opera, sci-fi, with I should say quite a lot of fantasy elements, and and a little bit of horror here and there. But overall, it's quite positive. The vibe is quite positive. It's not like a horrible depression-inducing dystopia like we see in
like most things now.
Yeah, like most things coming from Hollywood, for let's say. And humanity is not. It's not a utopia, but humanity is not this type of, let's say, what should I compare it with? Even though it's not like you can't compare it with most of the contemporary stuff, but let's say humanity is nothing like the greedy corporate bastards from Avatar.
Okay. Yeah, Avatar's a good example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they wouldn't go there and just like bomb some native peoples and slaughter them just because they can dig some rare minerals or stuff. Like this is, I mean, they would go there and they would, if it's really that super unique and they can't find it anywhere else, they will attempt to make a deal of sorts. Like they will not go to that planet and just slaughter everyone. It's like, oh
right.
yeah,
it wouldn't be the go-to. Yeah.
Oh no. Impossible.
Right. Okay. So something occurred to me, really. I guess it's occurred to me a few times, is that Minds really took off in the manner it has kind of taken off now, the social networking site Minds. In the aftermath of Parler going, I think a lot more people kind of flocked to Minds.
Oh yes.
But you've been on Minds forever. Because you were on Minds when I joined Minds, and that was in 2015 or 2016.
Yeah, 2016. Yeah. I never had a Facebook, never had a Twitter, etc. So Minds was my first social media. And I was actually hopeful and surprised when I joined to see a lot of people, a lot of other indies. musicians, painters, etc., etc. And it actually, in the beginning, it was most of these indie creators who actually populated Minds, and later you had people who were banned from Facebook for a wrong thing, or on Twitter for wrong thing, or like
the meme lords.
Yeah. Who kind of flocked, like it was probably early 2000, late 2016 maybe, around like the Trump election.
Yeah, there were a couple of bumps. It would have been then, and when did Parler go? Was it
last year?
Oh,
no.
it was 20. Was it 2020 or 2021 that it went?
2020, I think.
Or was it?
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe I think it might have been.
I forgot.
It might have been 21 because of January 6th. It might have gone then.
Yeah, I remember that. I was coaxed to make the account there, and I found a lot of indies there, who I later convinced. It wasn't hard to convince them to come to Minds, because Parawar was falling apart basically, and they're like, "Oh no, what is going on? Where are we going to go? Like, we're banned from Twitter, we're banned from Facebook, like we're canceled basically." I'm like, "Oh, come."
That's the thing though. Like, I didn't join Parler for any political reason. I joined it just because it was a new thing, and I was like, okay, well maybe there'll be like an energy here that there isn't in other places. And there really was. There was a really good energy for creative people on Parler.
Oh yes, you're correct. Yeah.
And that energy has kind of teleported to Minds now, which is really the reason I was there in the first place. Because I think so when I joined up on Minds, I think you were one of the people I followed. And Clawson Smith, another one of the authors who I haven't heard hide nor hair from in a while.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but he was on there. I got a couple of his books as well, and yeah, it was just kind of a nice place to be, and I think it still is. It's very, very good for independent artists and independent. Well, I mean, independent anything really. But it's just it's kind of weird to me that this is the first time we're actually speaking, considering that we've been kind of in the same area for as long as we have.
I think we just immersed in work, ourselves in work, and that's the main reason, because I have finished and published 8 books for this short period of time. It's like, even though I had the drafts, I mean, still it's a lot of work, you know.
Right, because you mentioned, I guess you mentioned in the foreword of the first Star Shatter that you've been working on the series for 15 years.
Yeah. It's even longer now. Like when you consider that the many stories, like the short stories that I wrote, which most of them are compiled into a short story anthology called Mandate of Sword and Railgun. And it's a lot of these stories, all of them, they are set in the same universe, in the universe of my books. But I had time to delve into certain parts of that world which was impossible in the books to do in the books. So that's and of course that's even more time invested and it's like yeah. So
right. So the Star Shatter series, we mentioned a little bit about what it is, but what kind of, without spoiling anything, of course, because I do recommend people read them. They are
yeah.
excellent. So what if you
without spoiling it, it is an alternate history universe, sci-fi stuff than what we would have in current year. Meaning you have like faster than light travel. You don't have so much misery on Earth. You have space colonies, you have spaceships, you have mechs, etc., etc. So also, of course, you have telepaths who can manifest certain abilities and can, some of them, they can even fold people or things through hyperspace and basically quote unquote teleport them somewhere. Which
okay.
yeah, so it's that alternate history universe. It's kind of similar when you read, because you've already read parts of like the first book, and
yeah.
you know that there are countries, places, and people who are called the same. They have the same name, but in many cases you have things which kind of I have explored the road not traveled. Like for example, in Star Shatter you have Egypt, and I'm talking ancient Egypt, like and Persia, which they have not vanished. They're there, and they have their culture and the gods and the archaeotech also.
Right.
And yeah, without spoiling too much, it's a pretty how should I put it? It's you have many layers and a lot of things to explore, a lot of interesting things, which I'm not saying that I'm the very first person who did those things, but I am probably someone who did a lot more research because I invested many years in it.
Oh yeah.
And I did like interviews with veterans and old people who are no longer alive today, but they shared their memories and their experiences with me. So did historical research and research of like tech and stuff and military vehicles, etc., etc. So it all came together, and I mean, space opera is space opera, but you can make it. You don't have to twist it too much with hard sci-fi stuff. You can have a nice blend of things which it's like, hey, science, this is what science says, and then you can say no, but in this alternate history Earth, like the science says the opposite. It's like,
well, that's one of the things about it that makes it so refreshing, is just the sheer fun of it.
Oh, that's the idea.
Such a fun read.
That's the idea. It's like, why would you why would certain influencers force you to read like depression inducing Hollywood post-apocalyptic shit. I mean, if you like post-apocalyptic stuff, I mean, there is post-apocalyptic stuff in my books, but it's not like beware, this is your destiny and it's set in stone, haha.
Yeah.
Because you're human and all humans are evil. Haha. It's like no, just no.
Right. That's something that has definitely crept in to a lot of particularly the science fiction of the last kind of 5 to 6 years.
Maybe longer.
Things like
maybe even longer.
Maybe longer. Yeah, certainly maybe longer, but definitely in the ones that used to be very kind of optimistic, hopeful, in human potential and human kind of ingenuity, have really gone in a weird, very kind of pessimistic direction. Like Star Trek is one of them. Like what they've done to Star Trek just pisses me off. And Star Wars in a way.
And Doctor Who also.
Doctor Who. I checked out of Doctor Who a while ago.
Yeah, most people I know checked out.
Yeah, Capaldi kind of broke it for me. But Star Wars, even though Star Wars really is a horrible universe of constant warfare, it had that sense of fun and that sense of kind of swashbuckling and things like that. And that stuff has really kind of dropped away as well. And even something like The Orville, which is like, it's meant to be this kind of light, fun, light comedy. The third series of it, which is out on at the moment, it's really there's this creep into this kind of pessimism. It's starting to go that way, and I'm like, please pull out of this skid.
It's getting darker. Yeah, I know.
It's just I don't get why things are going that way in particular in the current state of things.
And they want to make it. I think, and many other people would say that they want to update the old franchises and make them palpable to modern audiences, which is bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
I think it's meant to be a reflection almost.
Oh yeah, that too.
Of our time.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to. It was never really meant to be. Well, I mean, you could argue that Star Trek had that element to it where it did reflect our time in some cases.
But it did. But they made it so that it would convey a positive message.
And it would convey both sides of the argument.
Yes.
As well.
Yes, that too. Which yeah. But they're not doing it right now. It's like no. They have the message. And they're pushing it. Which no, I am of the like no, I don't like this deconstructionism. This let's destroy these beloved characters and like reimagine them as this current thing. While it's not the same character. So it's like no. I mean, why not make your own character? But they can't. They can't.
Well, that's too much work.
Yeah, that's too much work, too much research. They have to, and they're beholden to their special Hollywood tropes, which they can't even pull them off correctly. They can't even do their own tropes.
Well, it's part of the general degeneration of Hollywood in general. I think because you're looking at. Basically, what you're looking at really is just a basic lack of creativity. Yeah, a basic lack of
anything.
Yeah, it's like the reason. I mean, we say like it's hard work to make a new character, and it's certainly work to make a new character, but the thing about a new character is it's risky and it might not be profitable.
Work. Yeah.
So this sort of they're playing it safe, essentially.
Yeah, they're playing it safe, yeah.
And they're playing it safe in a weird way. As well.
Yeah. I agree.
I did say I was going to quote you, and I'm going to quote you. All right, so here we go. All right, so this is from the foreword of the first Star Shatter book, and it's something that leapt out at me, and I wanted to kind of discuss this because it's I think it's so well put, right? So it goes like this: I firmly believe that the tales which our ancient forebears wove and later turned into myth, this hallowed tradition of storytelling, is most important and must be treasured. I doubt anyone could deny the fact that our modern world is in desperate need of new heroic legends, tales that inspire courage before adversity and bestow the reader with hope, two things which are very much needed in these troubling times. All right, so there's 2 points there, really. The hallowed tradition of storytelling is one.
Yes.
And stories are from my perspective, they are basically a way we communicate complex ideas and make them, or complex concepts or otherworldly concepts, and make them
people,
right, and make them maybe more understandable, and make them, and basically communicate them clearly to an audience of people who can then engage with those ideas themselves, and, like you say, inspire to a degree. So how have we lost that? How have we lost that kind of formative, that kind of inspirational or aspirational story?
Well, I think it was the death of 1,000 cuts. A lot of small things which eventually compiled together, and this is in most cases when you study how civilizations fall apart, it's almost never a single event. It's like a lot of small things which gradually pile on top of each other, and then everything falls apart. And in this case, let's say I can point a finger to a lot of things, maybe postmodernism, the way that certain philosophers, let's say, kind of dismissed this basic moral fiber of civilization. It's like, all things are relative. It's like, it's like there are no real villains, there are no real heroes, like heroes suck. It's like this is let's throw this, chuck it into the garbage, let's chuck this into the garbage. It's like, and then they denied the hero journey, which is the most classic of an integral part of storytelling, and they have these now they call them heroes, but they're not heroes, they're villains actually. And they also have these quote unquote sympathetic villains who are they are evil, but you see, it's they're not they're not that super evil because they have been like oppressed by the system or something like that. Some progressive semi-intellectual arguments. Like, no, this is, like you said, storytelling has a specific purpose, and when you dilute it and when you pollute it with all of these nonsensical messages, it kind of loses all of its destined power, and then you do not have these shining heroic examples which would drive people to become the better versions of themselves, to strive for success, to help others, to like all of these basic ideas which are integral for maintaining civilization. Some of them are working because of this, like the ancient storytelling tradition. And when you destroy it, when you ruin it, you're kind of setting your civilization for doom, basically. So.
There's an interesting point there about villains which are sympathetic, and I think that is it's very like possible to do that, and I think it's even in some ways to your advantage if you manage to do that in some ways, and it's something that you do quite well in Star Shatter, because where I am, there are the Tazarans, or the Tazarans.
The Tazarans,
who are obviously evil, obviously part of an evil system, and yet you quite skillfully put in this idea that they are basically trapped in it. Like the average foot soldier is completely stuck in this system.
Yes, and that's a system which they themselves built.
Right.
And you can do it, but they are sympathetic mostly because it's based on real interactions between real people and history also. So
okay.
When I created all of the antagonists, protagonists, and then the civilizations, I drew inspiration from history, and I extrapolated certain things, certain concepts which existed in our own ancient past, and not so ancient past. Let's say when you talk about the Tazarans, their system exists in this way, in this form, because of their own culture and their own way of shaping and thinking.
So for people who aren't familiar with your work as of yet, and hopefully will be, what is their kind of philosophy?
The Zarans, well, they value probably they value the material things a bit too much.
Right.
And then as the thousands and thousands of years of their civilization progressing, they kind of, it was now so ingrained in their psyche, is that, for example, if you're a poor man, a poor Tazaran, you can basically sell yourself into like labor for some company or into military service. You actually sell yourself, and then let's say you're a woman, a pretty woman. You can choose. You have that option to choose, like if it's possible, and arrange your own marriage, like sell yourself basically to some family into marriage. Like it doesn't have to be your parents, like they have nothing to do with it. Like you can do it yourself. And they have like these different kinds of contracts. Like everything is highly structured, bureaucratic and stuff. But this is, like you said, this is the trap that they have created for themselves. And this is something that they are almost impossible. It's almost impossible to escape, because it's so. In the beginning, when they crafted it, it was so efficient that they continued improving it, and eventually, after a few thousands of years, like their culture shifted gradually, and it's now completely in this mega bureaucratic and monetary overdrive. I mean, it's not to say that they're not like a passionate people. They have that. It's like the more you read, you will see, without me giving too much spoilers.
Well, one of the things that really struck me, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's very early on in the first book that it comes up, that the Tavern higher ups put more value in their equipment than in their soldiers.
It costs money. It costs money.
And they buy their armies.
Oh yes, they buy their armies. I think you as a Brit, you remember that old series with Shelby, Sharp.
Oh, Sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a period, I think before and during and after the Napoleonic Wars, where you had these officers who would organize barracks and train people to be soldiers, and then sell them to the highest bidder, to like the officers who came from the European battlefields, and they say, oh yeah, I need another battalion. I lost all my troops. Like I need. And they would say, "Ooh, like how many guineas you're willing to pay for this?" Like they're highly trained, and this actually happened. And it did not happen just then. It actually happened across the history for like in many parts of the world. There were practices like that. So I'm not inventing anything new.
Yes.
I'm just drawing from our own human experience. So basically, the Tsaran officers, some of them, they have purchased their commission, their officer commission, just like you could do back in, like, let's say Victorian England. You could, like, if you're some wealthy noble son, you can go and to like, let's say, horse guards and say, I am the Duke of whoever. It's like, I will buy this commission, and you will make me like a colonel or a major or like whatever. And some of these people, they were trained since early childhood, and they were competent, but others weren't. And you have this example in the very first book, with that officer, that noble officer with the fancy rifle, who actually has like this section of troopers and that APC, and he's like, forward, you morons! Like, what? It's like, I own you. Like I purchased you and your equipment. Like, fight better. Why aren't you fighting better?
Right. Yes. Yeah. That kind of it kind of parallels the kind of First World War as well.
Yeah.
With like the aristocrat throwing the common folk.
Yeah, forward, man. And he's sitting in the bunker and like looking at the map. And he doesn't like understand why can't they win more glory for him. It's like they're running into a muddy hellhole with barbed wire, and they're charging machine guns with pilots. Like you why are you failing me? I came here to become famous and win medals like you.
Why isn't your stiff upper lip protecting you against the machine gun?
Why can't you just fly over the barbed wire? No. How dare you? How dare you not do it? So yeah, basically you have this in every single historical period on Earth. You have these kind of people, the deluded, obnoxious, daddy and mommy's boy who is like born with the silver spoon and given everything without earning it, and they can't understand why like mommy told me that I'm the greatest there is, like why can't I win this battle, like why? Oh no, it's not my mistake, it's not I'm not doing anything wrong, it's the stupid soldiers, they're failing me.
It's just this it's this kind of rejection of life itself, kind of. And
but not all of them are like that. Yes. When you read more, like you will see that, especially in the second book, when the main opponent of the crew, Pierce, who is nothing like these self-absorbed, pompous, obnoxious fools. He's one of the competent officers, and like the contrast, I think that is one of the points in my series which a lot of my readers like, is that you have this, you don't have one amorphous blob, one massive, they're all cartoon villains, like they're all just like inept stormtroopers who can't shoot the side of the barn, like you have these, but you also have different types of people. It's like not all of them are exactly the same. And especially with the Tsarani Imperium, this part of the border with the Terran monarchy is called like this entire expanse, like the fringe space. This is the back end of their imperium, and then just like the Romans did once, they quote unquote promote certain senators and other people. They promote them and they send them there like, you will make your account. You'll become a border count. We'll give you like a few dozen of star systems. Like you're very valuable to us. Like go there. Where if and when you screw up, you're not doing it in the core systems. You're not doing it on some important front line. Like you're doing it in the boonies. The boonies. And
better you mess up in Gaul than in
or in let's say Asia Minor or somewhere else. Like go there. It's like they have a lot of sand there. You'll be sand rich.
Sand's important.
Yes.
Sand.
Yes. But it's that's I can speak a lot about the Tazarans, but then you'll get into spoiler territory. They're not
Well,
just some generic, even though in the beginning they are purposely like, at least that small part that you see, that the reader sees, it's perfectly on purpose. It's made to look like, yeah, they're not very competent.
Yeah.
And that's made for a reason.
Right.
Because when you see the competent and when you compare it, it's like,
it's night and day.
It's good.
Well, the other pretty unique thing about the Star Shatter universe is the uplifted races, which is something that I haven't seen in a kind of story or series of this type. So where did that come from? And well, we'll start with that. Where did that come from? So the animal races that have been uplifted.
Yes, the animal races, they did during, I mean, the later part of their version of the Second World War, which is, they call it the Second Great War also. It's nothing, it's not the same, like it's not the same as here. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. Okay.
But they kind of back then, I think it was the Soviets first who did the first genetic experiments, and they did it with gifted technology from a certain certain groups. One of said groups was an alien group, was like a
right,
a group of aliens, and they kind of, they were trying to create the perfect Soviet man, like the new, like to genetically modify humans and make them superior. A bit like in Star Trek, the Gene Wars, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they failed.
Right.
And the process and the technology was too much. And so they decided, okay, so it's not working on humans. Like we get like some horrible mutations and stuff, like they can't. I mean, they did, so they have some successes in creating monstrosities, but it's not like, it wasn't their goal. It wasn't the successful achievement of the goal that Comrade Stalin placed before them. And a lot of them were gulagged.
Right.
Like, how dare you, comrade, you fail. So they said, okay, let's lower our expectations. Let's try it on humans, not humans, on animals. Like it's let's start from like an easier point. And they had some success, and later when they lost the war and they got crushed, and the US and the other countries, like they got the technology, and they said, okay, we can use that, but we will find a way to use it ethically, like not create like monstrosity, not use gulag prisoners to do like human experiments. And no, we'll do it ethically. And so they had like a couple of experiments. They performed a couple of experiments, and they saw that it had promise. It could be used. With some species, like the gorillas, for example, they are already intelligent. So it was much easier you could actually communicate with them like with a sign language and then explain to them
what you're gonna do.
And like try to explain like a complicated idea, and they would eventually understand part of it. And that was when they actually engaged in a couple of projects like this, and that was mainly because a certain alien race told them that okay, you just have one planet, you're puny, you don't have population. Like in every single future conflict, if you stumble into it, even the smaller, like the minor galactic powers, they have countless billions. Like it's like they can win the game of numbers.
Right. Okay.
And
so they needed more people, essentially.
They needed more people. Yeah, that's like okay.
And we can't have babies fast enough.
Yep. And they're dying.
Fetch the gorillas.
Yeah, fetch the gorillas, and they was like, okay, do you want to get like us, to become like us? And the gorillas were like, okay, let us think about it. And it took them, well, because they're primitive, but they actually kind of discussed it. They had plenty of gorillas who were like taught the sign language. They could communicate faster with different like tribes of gorillas. So that was where the beginning was established, and then you had different other experiments with the hamsters and the bunnies, and they were insanely successful. It was probably mostly luck,
right?
Even though they were careful, and they had like, they called in alien advisors from that race. They said, okay, so tell us what we're doing wrong. It's like, yeah, okay, yes, this is how you do it. So they uplifted them. They gradually they became part of the civilization and society, and they weren't compared to what the fate of an uplifted race in like among the older core races is. They are actually, okay, so we created you, you're going to serve us. You're basically our slaves for many thousands of years. Like they have laws for that. It's actually, okay, so we made you, so we own you. For a certain, like very long period of time, we can do whatever we want to do. So humans did not do it. For that, they won the ire of the core races. It's like, how dare you?
Right.
How dare you make something like some new species and just give them, like, just make them free. Like, this is no, this is a dangerous precedent.
Didn't even think of the consequences. Yeah.
Well, it kind of. No, I'm not good. This is spoilers. This is spoilers.
Well, what wouldn't be a spoiler, I guess, is what pushed you to kind of have that be an element of the series, like have the animal races be in it.
Well, it's a very good way for me to explore different views of our human selves. By doing this is probably one of the reasons, and the second is that it's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun, and especially the kids love it.
I mean, it is fun, and it is interesting. Like because the first character you meet in Star Shatter is a bunny, who, and you kind of in the chapter, you go into how she thinks as a bunny, like how what her perspective is on like life and death, and what her perspective is on kind of the galaxy around her in a way.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
And it is definitely an interesting kind of way to go about it. I think, and of course it is fun, right? It is a lot of fun to kind of have that as an element of it.
Yeah, and then the hamster.
And the hamster.
Yeah.
I love that hamster. That hamster is brilliant.
You have not.
No pun intended. He is awesome.
You have not seen. I mean, it's in every book, every installment I add. I can allow myself to build atop what I already introduced, and you will see more and more about their way of thinking and how they view humans from their own minds and from their perspective.
Right.
Because they can they are keenly aware that the position that they are now, it's vastly different than what would have been if they weren't uplifted by the humans.
Right.
So you have that too as an element of their the shape of their way of
the psychology.
Yes, their psychology. Yes.
All right.
Because they know that the core races, they view the people who created them, who gave them sentience, as like barbarians, and they are themselves like cold, deficient, genetically deficient, like, and all sorts of other derogatory names, because it's like they are uniquely free among a sea of created for certain purposes races. It's like, okay, this bunny, they have the freedom to become whatever they want, and like learn skills and start a business, travel. But in the other case, like when they look at on the other side of the fence, and they see another uplifted race who is just like they have been modified and created to fight and die in some war. So they that's their purpose, and when their purpose is complete, they will just be thrown away on some planet and just like fuck off.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like a reminder of a crime, sort of. It's like, and the ramifications of creating something that can think, that is just for that purpose, to be kind of thrown to the wolves. So we mentioned the kind of fun element there, and I think that brings us to the sort of optimism side of things, and the kind of the optimism versus dystopia side of things.
Yes, I love calling this wholesome fiction. Yeah,
it's something that I am It's something where I sort of had somewhat of an epiphany regarding that and Kodiak, because that universe, the Kodiak universe, so far comprises two novels, which are both very well. I mean, I would say that I would say Red Saints is very kind of dystopian in a lot of ways, and the first two, I mean, the Kodiak novels are set in a holy war, essentially. The middle one, Eye of the Universe, was going to be way more depressing than it ended up being, because at the 11th hour I changed the ending to make it more, I guess, to make it more hopeful, I suppose, and to give it all a point, to give all the struggles that occur in that book a point. And it's something that I'm really looking at doing with Kodiak, and it's something that I really want to do as well in the stuff that I do on the channel, like the D&D focused stuff and the stories that are told through that. I don't want it all to be kind of doom and gloom.
Yeah, it's you can, as far as like post-apocalyptic stuff goes, it has its place. You should definitely use it, but it has to be a tool to convey certain warning, let's say, or to help you introduce some more realistic, greater hope of things. Otherwise, it's like, okay, if you're just doing it for depression's sake, like for doom's sake, it's I mean,
you can't say fairer than that, really.
Yeah,
it's very yeah.
And we have to be mindful that a lot of different people with different mindsets and with how should we put it, with certain thoughts, read the books, and too much depression can actually cause people to cease to hope for another day. I'm
Right.
trying to circumvent certain words.
Well, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose that would be true. Yeah, that there are people that it can, particularly when what you're writing is intended to be. I don't think Kodiak is meant to be this in a way, but like, and I don't think we'll see with Star Shatter as I get kind of further through it. But so far, it doesn't seem to be the case that it's a reflection on modern day.
Oh no,
I think
it's a reflection on their modern day.
Right. Yeah. Same with Kodiak. It's a reflection on their world. I think when you can do stuff that's very kind of reflective, or it's meant to be reflective of modern day, it can really push people in a bad direction. I think this is part of the major, and I think part of that is a very cynical view that I take of that, is that a lot of that is kind of by design. I think that there is a big element out there that really hates escapism and hates the idea that people can.
That's true.
Have this release of the tension in their own lives through art.
You know why? Because that's one of my teachers actually told me. It's sad and overly depressed people can be controlled easily, and this is why, for example, in the gulags and any other type of camp like this, people are crushed. They could, I mean, it's not a normal prison. They're basically sent to these camps to die, and they're keen and they're made aware of that. Like, you come here to die, and everything is in this quote unquote system is designed in such a way that they can't escape even in their minds. Even their minds are shackled there. And the way to shackle their mind, because if you leave the mind of the prisoner free, they will use their imagination eventually, and they will think of a way to escape. Maybe something that like the authoritarian goons who created the camp, they didn't think of. And this is why it's very important for them to crush your mind, crush your spirit, shackle your spirit. And that's why certain groups are doing that to storytelling, because it's a danger. It's a great danger to them.
It is intentionally rebellious.
Yes.
Storytelling.
And it spreads ideas about dangerous ideas about freedom and other things which they don't like. And this is storytelling is basically how a revolution started.
Right. Well, it's how cultures shift. It's who tells the best story. I mean, in theory, it's who tells the best story, and whoever does that is usually the winner. Unless that story is, I mean, you can head that off by suppressing stories, which happens all the time.
It happens, yes.
But you can never do that for too long, I think. You can never keep a good story down.
The problem with keeping a good story down for a long time is that when it eventually escapes the bottle, the effect of said story is multiplied tenfold.
Right.
The longer you suppress it, the consequences for the suppressors get progressively worse in the end.
Right. Indeed.
And they have no one else to blame but themselves.
Right. That's completely. I think the thing I find with trying to inject more optimism into my work, particularly Kodiak, is that you can't just make the shift. Like, you can't just switch gears in the middle of a series. You've got to kind of build up, and you've got to earn it.
Yeah.
And that is something I really, really enjoy, is working out how we get to optimism, how we get to these parts where you can really explore something that isn't as dark and horrific as it could be. And I think also, like, dark and horrific stuff, it's almost too easy.
Yeah, it's easy to destroy, but it's hard to build.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is very difficult, and particularly in rough historical times, it's difficult to find that optimism. But when you find it,
you when you find it, you embrace it fully.
Right.
And in, like you said, like in different hard historical periods, let's say the Great Depression comes to mind. People of all walks of life, they rediscovered their that aspect of having a small community, even to help with let's say tasks like cooking, looking after children, etc. And when like the big daddy government basically fell apart, and it's like you don't have, you can't rely on things which your, let's say, your parents or your grandparents rely to, like access to high quality medical care, or access to public schools, or access to public transportation, or quick to respond like police or fire, or etc., firemen, etc. It's like they I remember reading that they had like these cooking, evening cooking chores, which they have, like different families would do it for their neighbors, and they would like get, let's say, one floor of the apartment building. They would get together, let's say 6 families. They would get together, and one of the family will cook something this day, and the next day would be another family, etc., etc. And they would take turns looking after their children, or homeschooling their children, or like one of them would help fix their shoes, or they would like find someone among them who can make clothes, and they would gather like materials and stuff. Like they would eventually create these like tight-knit groups, and that would help them survive this period, and not only survive, but they would find the wholesomeness in working together and being together and helping each other. And this is probably one of the main things which pushes them to live through this period.
Right. Yes, that community, that togetherness.
I think I managed to write this properly in Star Shattered.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, it's times of strife always do bring out that side of people. It, like I mean, creatively, they bring out the best in people, and I think generally speaking, they bring out the best in people. Like, I look at like the 60s in particular, with kind of like the Cold War elements, and out of that you got so much kind of rich culture that has stood the test of time.
Yeah.
And yeah, here's hoping that is something that we can kind of, I guess, pull back on, you know. Well, pull back, bring back, that's the word. Bring back.
True.
And I think, I mean, independently, certainly through Minds, that's something that not only can happen, but is happening. And that is part of what makes it so makes it such a rewarding place to be.
True. Let's say in the books, you will notice that especially after you start the second one, you will notice that the Terrans, it doesn't matter if they are human, if they bunnies, hamsters, like, and gorillas, they almost instinctively know how to complement each other. And it's not you from a certain sense, from a certain point, you lack that type of Hollywood drama that you say, oh, I should do this because blah blah blah, and I should be you like they don't quarrel that much because after so many hardships survive, they know what their personal worth is, and they're willing to accept their fellow Terrans. And I mean, you have this moment when you have like different egos, and you begin like that measuring of the egos, which especially in TV series and movies, it's like it provides that core drama which they like so much, and it certainly is from a certain point of view. It's interesting to watch, but what if that entire experience is different? Well, what if their lived experience is completely different? Why would they waste their time quarreling after they've grown up throughout their childhoods in an entirely different type of a community, like a tight-knit community, but not just a little floor of an apartment building, but entire colonies, entire planets. That's their environment. This is how they grew up. Why would they act differently? This is a tried and true way of how they thrive, they survive, basically. Why would they stab a knife in their backs and doom everyone? Like there's no, like, they don't think like that. Even those of them who are like probably the most self-serving, if you can even say that in modern Terran society. But there are people who are like, okay, I want to make money, a lot of stuff, like I want this and that. But even they are not like, oh no, I'm not going to jeopardize the entire community, like the entire colony, because I want to make a few more millions. So this is it's madness.
Right. Well, I tell you what, I think that's a good place to finish up. So where can people find you, and where can they find your work?
People can find me on Minds, and my handle on Minds is Armar, so they can find me on Minds like that, and they can find my books on Amazon, all of the Star Shutter series, several books of the Star Shutter series so far, and the anthology, Sword and Yogan. And I also have a Patreon page and a subscribe page, which I am updating regularly. And most of my short stories are on Patreon, and I have these short scenes, unique scenes from the life of Terrans, from characters, not only Terrans, Star Shutter characters, which I have began writing and publishing on my subscribe site. So it's a different type of content there.
All right, fantastic. Well, you can find me on YouTube, find us on YouTube, really. than one of me. There's also William Carr at the Alchemy Lab. You can find me at Matt Waterhouse Author on Lines. And yes, even when times are hard, stay optimistic, because hard times tend to shape.
Oh yeah.
Tend to shape into something good, hopefully, as long as you let them. Right. So, take care, everyone.